So I'm in day 4 of my quarantine, having just come back from Australia. I've travelled back and I'm now doing that quarantine at my parents' place. I had a podcast lined up to do for this episode, but I actually wanted to do a different one. And the name of this podcast, you probably have heard that saying before, big fish in a small pond. And it came about from, when you travel away and you come back from somewhere having spent so long away, you notice all these different things that have changed. And my parents' family home, they've done a few things, but one thing they've done is they've actually changed the pond, the family pond that we've had. We've had that pond for years. It's been there ever since I was a little kid, and we put some new fish in it before I left. And I remember when we put them in, and I was helping them put them in. They are these beautiful koi carp. Now, if you don't know what koi carp is, go Google it. It's a beautiful fish. And we put it in there and they started growing. And then when I'd left, I thought, okay, I just remember them being at the sort of size they were. And I thought they'll probably get bigger. But having come back, I've realized that they haven't got bigger. They've grown to the size of the pond that they're in. Now, when I was in Singapore, transiting back to the UK, there's a pond in the airport that has these koi carp in them, and they're beautiful. They're massive as well, and the pond is much, much bigger. And it really got me thinking about that whole saying, big fish in a small pond. Now, if you're not really sure, or if you've never heard that saying before, what the saying means is it's a person who is very well known or important in a very small group of people, but outside of that group, they're not really that important or well known at all. So if you put this into a sporting context, and I am sure you've heard this saying before, you may know a player or players that are playing in a team where they're the best player in that team and they're very good within that team. But if you were to take them out of that team and put them in another one, they may not be the best player in that side. They may just be like every other player or fish in this scenario, as we're going to talk about it. So I want to talk about, if you either know someone who is perhaps in that position and wants to get better, but is potentially that big fish in a small pond, and just kind of sort of a side note, if you are that, or you know of someone who is a big fish in a small pond, they're the best player in that team and they don't really want to get better, if that's what's making them happy, then let that be it. This episode is going to be about, for those who are faced with potentially being one of the better players in the side, and they either want the side to get better and so that they can grow, or they feel they perhaps need to move out of the team and into a new environment in order for them to grow. And I've been in both of those scenarios before. I've been in both of those, and I'll talk about them in a bit. But ultimately, if you've got those higher aspirations and you really want to test yourself, then this is what it's going to be about. And the reason why some people don't move out of that pond is because they get comfortable, and they know that if they are to go in that new environment, then they're going to be the slowest person in that team. They're going to be challenged, and they're going to have to show some vulnerabilities. They're going to have to perhaps fail at some stage. And that's really uncomfortable, and some people just don't want that. And like I said, if that's you and you don't want that, then carry on doing what you're doing, that's fine. But again, this is aimed at those people who want to get better. So if you do know that you want to have those higher aspirations and you want to develop, and this will also be about those other people in that team that perhaps aren't the best player in the squad, in the team. So if you are that player that does want to get better, then here's a few things that you can do. And there's really just two options that I will talk about. One is moving and going to another team or a pond. And the other is staying where you are and staying with the team you're at, and a way to get that better and improve yourself, even if you are the best player there. So moving away from the team that you're in. I did this when I was a kid. I was 18 years old. I wanted to become a professional. I had higher aspirations, and I wanted to really challenge myself. I wanted to fulfill what I felt was my potential, because sometimes if you don't move out of, if you end up staying as that big fish, small pond character, then you're perhaps not fulfilling your full potential. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to get myself out of that environment. And it wasn't nothing against the environment that I was in. The people were great. It was a great team, but I knew that I needed to go up a league. I needed to go up into a new league where I could definitely challenge myself and become better. So I chose to make that really tough decision at 18 and moved away and played for the team that I'm playing for now. And it was a great decision in retrospect because it got me to that level that I needed to be at. I was around people that were better than me. I had some success, I had some failures, but ultimately I grew, I learned, and I got better and better. So that was something that I did, and I know there are players out there and athletes that perhaps are in that boat. One of the challenges that you face when you're doing that is that you are moving into an environment you don't know. You can't really control it. You're going into a new culture, so there's people you may not know. You are unsure of how things are done. So you want to make sure that if you are going to make that move, if you're really going to make that big jump, then you want to know perhaps some people in that team. You want to maybe ask some questions of that team that you're going to. So you want to know as much as you can before you do make that jump. Don't just make it without knowing what you're going to, without knowing some of the things you're going to be stepping into. So make it sure it's an educated move if you are going to make it. And that's what I did. I had some people there that I knew. I asked how things were done, and it looked like I was going to fit in quite well, and it turned out all right. Because I have met some people who have not done that. They have gone into an environment and then they've really regretted it, and they've perhaps moved back and forth between teams, and they've lost out on time where they can actually improve. They've lost out on their ability to train in a better environment because they've spent all this time moving all the time. So it's a really, really big decision, and make sure you make the right one. You want to make sure that when you're going into this new group, you are aware that you're going to be the slower player, or that you want to be the slowest person in that pack, and that's a good thing. You want to be in a position where you are perhaps being criticized, you're failing, you're not at the standard, because that shows that you're in a place where you can grow. You're not the one that is never being challenged and you're never being pushed. It's going to be uncomfortable, but it will only be for a short space of time. You'll be the slowest person in that pack for only a moment, and that's a good place to be. If you're not challenged, if you're not criticized, if you're not failing, then you're not getting yourself into a position where you can grow. So knowing that it won't be for long, but it will happen, it will be uncomfortable. So being that slowest person in the group is a good thing for a period, and it's good for you, and just hang in there and know that it's not going to last too long. And that's a part and parcel of moving into a bigger, better team if and when you do make this decision. For some people though, if you don't want to change the team you're in, perhaps you're in a team that you like and you're really enjoying what you're doing, and enjoyment is a huge part of this, there is a way in which you can still become better. You can strive for that higher aspiration without moving team. And I've been in this situation before myself. So if you're in a team where you want the best for them, and you know that collectively, or in that collective, you're one of the better players, then you're almost putting a little bit of responsibility on you in order to improve those around you. If you can develop those people around you and you can improve the collective ability, then you're going to give yourself the chance, or the best chance, to improve yourself. You're going to raise that collective of the squad. By doing that, you're raising the standards as a whole. They can then raise the standards as a whole even more. And almost, really, as the analogy would be, is building a bigger pond almost. And as you do that, you build some space for you to grow as well. You can start to be challenged by more and more people in the team, and that will allow not only you to get better, but you as a collective. One of the benefits of doing this is that you're doing it with people you know, and if you want to grow yourself and the team as well and have some success together, because there is nothing better than having success with people that you enjoy spending time with, then it's worth having those conversations and making sure that the people around you are on the same page. They want to get better. They want to do the work that you're doing. And that just requires being open and honest. You just want to talk to them. You want to make sure that you're having those conversations regularly to make sure that you're doing things that aren't pulling everyone in a direction they don't want to go, and almost making you look like a bad person for taking them in a direction they don't want to be in. You're just kind of signing that verbal contract, like, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve, so yep, we're going to go ahead and do it. And that, again, it's a great place to be in, and sometimes it can be uncomfortable, but if you do start to have those conversations, you start to know where you're at. And if those conversations perhaps go in a way where they aren't on the same page, then you might want to revert back to what I was just talking about, which is looking to move elsewhere. But I would always recommend trying to stay with the team that you're in currently. Try to make that team the best possible team you can. The scenario that I was in was I was having to move up into a new division. I had to move up into a league, but sometimes you may be in the top league already and you just want to improve that team you're in. So, like I said, take some responsibility on yourself. Take it on yourself to improve those around you, not only for their benefit, but it will be for your benefit as well. That collective raising of the group will raise you as well. So it hasn't always got to be about moving elsewhere and trying. The grass isn't always greener. It can be about just fertilizing your own grass and really looking at your own team and how you can make that better in that environment to the standard that you want it to be in. So hopefully this episode has given you some sort of idea of what you can do and look at how you can perhaps give back to the environment, the group that you're in order to raise them. And like I said, I never recommend moving straight away. I always think about trying to stay with where you're at. Can you make yourself better with the people that you're around? Can you make them better? And then really your sort of last resort being, yeah, I'll make that move if I need to. And making sure that if you do make that move, it's an educated one. You understand what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go, and what you're stepping into, because, yeah, it's an environment you may not be able to control as well as the one you're currently in. So that's all I've got time for you today. Like I said, this was a bit of a different idea that I was going to have, but hopefully it's a topic that you or someone you know may find relevant and you can pass this episode on to them. But I will see you guys next time for the next episode. I'll catch you later.